I don't know what it feels like to be on a desert island, but I think, in a way, it may be easier than being a social outcast. At least the islander knows that the people ignore him not for their own reasons, but because there just isn't anyone around for hundreds or even thousands of kilometers. Who feels more hungry, the person in a prison cell or the person forced to observe a luxurious banquet? I don't think I was really upset with Catherine. Surprised, disappointed, but not upset. Unfortunately, something like that was to be expected of her, and by doing this, she was pushing the love for that Katya further and further out of my heart. And I was just too tired. However, her words still rang clear in my mind. What exactly had happened between them back then? Catherine wouldn't get mad over nothing, and if she hated Himitsu that much, was Katya even capable of genuine hatred? What had to have happened to evoke such a strong, baleful emotion in her? I just couldn't imagine Himitsu doing something worthy of it. While thinking about all this, I didn't notice how I got to school by the time the second class started. In reality, I had absolutely no reason to be here, but it wasn't any worse than any other place. And this wasn't even about Irina. Did her threats really matter after my talk with Himitsu's father? And what really did matter? What did I have left in my life? Naturally, Catherine wasn't at school. I wouldn't be surprised if Himitsu skipped classes as well. I was sitting and looking out the window, and unplugged from the rest of the world. The strong autumn wind was mercilessly shaking the trees in the schoolyard. With the last bits of strength they resisted, not giving up their red and yellow foliage to it. It wouldn't last long, however. By nature's will, they would become naked and helpless before the first frost and the coming cold. But the wind didn't need those old leaves. Blowing is its destiny. It can't exist otherwise. Perhaps Catherine's destiny was to wreck my life. Michael approached me during a break. God, again? It was hard to guess from his facial expression what he was going to talk about, but I got preliminarily tense. Let's just not go over the same thing again. I just thought you had some time to think. His persistence was enviable, but now in particular this behavior was frankly inappropriate. At least, not here for everyone to see. Or was he deliberately trying to make me mad? I've already thought it through, and told you everything. We discussed it only a couple days ago. Yes, but I still haven't gotten a clear answer from you. A clear answer? I smirked and flung my hand in the air. The usual level of noise in the classroom became noticeably lower. Do you want a piece of advice? I'll give you one for free today. Run away with her without looking back. Otherwise, she'll ruin your life same as she ruined mine. I was stepping on the same rake again. Not only now was Michael listening to me, but the entire class. Except I couldn't care less. Shall I take that as an affirmative answer? Are we doing math here? Affirmative, negative? What's the fucking difference? You know what? If you need her so much, take her. I said and quickly walked out of the classroom. The nastiest thing was, and I scolded myself for it without end, that I couldn't even really get mad at Catherine. Even though I had every right to. Any normal person would. Good afternoon, senpai. Someone from a junior grade greeted me politely. How did he know me, and why did he talk to me at all? Didn't everyone in this school know that Nikolai Anakin is a dangerous sociopath? I passed by Himitsu's classroom and looked inside for a moment, but there was no one behind her desk. Fair enough. Afraid of running into Saya-chan, I quickly ran up the stairs, taking them two at a time, and as could be expected, found myself on the roof. Somebody was sitting on the bench, and I was about to think that it was Kagome. But it wasn't her. The girl was holding back her long blonde hair as it fluttered in the wind like a ship's sail in an Alexander Grin novel. Damn, it has been ages since we've seen Ellie. Fuck, when was the last time we saw her, right? I think it would have to be like early on when she's like first introduced, when you walk in on her in the old music room, like during that very first like introductory moment. Other than that, I don't think we've seen a fucking peep of her. Haven't heard anything of her, haven't seen a fucking single frame of her, and now all of a sudden she's up on the roof. Why? The hell is going on here? Just Ellie out of nowhere, just to remind you like, oh hey, by the way, Ellie exists. She plays like no role in this route whatsoever, but hey, she's definitely here. I recognize Ellie, but even though I couldn't see her face, I thought she seemed sad, looking into the distance at the massive city from the school's roof, like you'd look into the horizon of the ocean, expecting the return of a beloved. I wondered if she had a boyfriend. I drove these foolish thoughts away and approached the uncrowned queen of the school. Hi, hope I'm not intruding. She raised her head and looked at me surprised. Hoodlumkin? Kobayashi-san. I put a semblance of a sarcastic smirk on my face. Actually, my name is Nick. I see. I looked upset and was behaving far less energetically than usual. Sorry, if I'm prying. Did something happen? Nothing important. Just some family problems. Ah, I understand. Actually, no, I don't. I had it immediately and sat down next to her, keeping the distance allowed by decency. I'm alone. I live alone. Is that so? She clearly wasn't in the mood for a chat. By the way, I was at your concert. You play really well. Oh yeah, that's right. We would have saw her then, too. Still, that's still very early on. Finally, Ellie brightened up and cast a glance in my direction. Yeah, right. I saw you. You were staring at me the entire concert. You wouldn't let me play. I was there by accident. I just swing by that club on occasion. And what a lucky coincidence that we were playing there that time. Yes, it was. Just a coincidence, I'll have you know. It happens. Not everything in the world revolves around you and your family. The last part was clearly too much, and Ellie smiled sadly and looked away. Yeah, sure, you're right. It's just, now. She started out but sighed heavily and went silent. Now, you hear down. Explain then. Here we go again. Sorry, but I really don't feel like it. How many times can you explain the same thing? Would talking really change anything? What an interesting observation. I was constantly boiling in a cauldron filled with painful introspections and regular fights with Himitsu and Catherine. Well, you have your music to distract you. Yeah, for now. I think you should keep doing it. You clearly have a talent. I was staring at the vapor trail left by a plane and added wistfully, you know, I even envy you in a sense. Not because of all this school queen and heiress of the Kobayashi Empire stuff, but because you have something of your own. Something that you do well and something you want to pursue. A calling, I guess. A life goal. I'm not really good at saying this stuff. Sorry. Finally, I looked at Ellie. She lowered her head and blushed a bit. Everything sounds so easy if I just listen to you. Well, I don't know if it's easy or not. I'm just judging your situation from the perspective of a layperson, so to say, who has nothing like that in his life. Maybe that's for the better. Ellie jumped up off the bench, shaking her head, golden hair flying side to side, a faint smell of perfume reaching my nose. It took a considerable effort to hide my embarrassment from this girl. Well, okay, hoodlum Nick-kun. See you later. Bye. I responded timidly and remained in my place. I didn't know whether Kobayashi-san had a real crown, but once a long time ago I had given one to a little girl, a neighbor of mine. I couldn't get used to the fact that the school year in Japan starts in spring. After graduating from the primary school at the embassy, I went to a normal secondary school with normal children. Maybe a bit of an elite one. From childhood, Himitsu wanted to be in the same class as me, but her poor health hadn't allowed that. But we still ended up in the same school. She was just a grade lower. She then skipped spring and summer semesters due to illness and managed to go to school with me only in autumn. Must have been the end of September as well. Do you remember? Mita? Himitsu was pulling at my sleeve. I asked you not to call me that anymore, especially at school, I said sternly. Okay. She replied sadly and lowered her head. We're adults now. At least I am. So what should I call you then? I don't know. I thought for a second. The question was an important one for a child. I have a classmate, Kyosuke. I'll introduce you. He calls me Nick. Nika. Himitsu uttered in the Japanese style. No way, it sounds like the name of a mafia boss. Don Nico. She laughed. I like little Himitsu's big smiley face. You come to me with a request, but you don't ask with respect. You don't even think to use keigo. Himitsu laughed even harder. Mikadana. Well, no need to be that formal. I even grew a bit embarrassed. Ben. Oh my god, she's so adorable. The stress of heavy thinking found reflection on her childish face. Nika-kun? She suggested timidly. I paused. It should do for now. And then you should also call me something like something like that. Like what? Himitsu-sama. I listen and obey, my mistress Himitsu-sama. We were approaching the school, and more I noticed Himitsu's little shoulders tremble. She was clearly very nervous, but was trying not to show it. A yellow leaf fell at my feet, then another one, and another. I started to pick them up. Nika-kun? She said slowly, as if she was trying to taste this new word. What are you doing? You'll see soon. When I gathered enough leaves, I took a fishing line out of my bag and began to string the leaves on it. You can find anything in a little rascal's bag, sometimes things weirder than a fishing line. When I finished, the resulting composition mostly resembled a washing line with colorful rags hung on it. Every princess should have a crown. Ah. God damn it, that is so fucking cute. Bro. Look at that shit and tell me that's not like the cutest shit ever. I'm taking a screenshot of that. That is fucking adorable. Oh my god, my heart. My heart, bro. My heart. That is the cutest shit, my dude. Oh my god, I love it. Holy hell. Alright, let's bring our text box back in. I barely managed to mount this little something on Himitsu's head. The leaves stubbornly refused to stand vertically, and following the laws of physics, were falling, draping over her head. In the end, Himitsu resembled a bald old man with hair only remaining on her temples, nape, and also forehead.
Ah, it's so cute.
Himitsu sang, opened her bag, and took a little mirror out of it. Are you sure you want to see this? I said in a theatrically serious voice and slowly took a few steps aside. She looked at herself in the mirror attentively and smiled. Smiled so cutely that, for a moment, it seemed that the crown made of leaves shone with all the colors of a golden autumn. I got embarrassed, not because I was seeing a beautiful girl, which had happened to me before, but because that girl suddenly turned out to be Himitsu. Alright, let's go. I habitually took her by the hand and quickly walked to school.
Mika-kun?
She called to me in a more confident voice. If someone asks, you'll say that you're my sister, got it? My juvenile maximalism was still there, after all.
Mika-kun?
And we have different surnames because you were adopted. Or I was, whatever. And that's why we don't look alike.
Mika-kun?
That's only if someone asks, otherwise we don't even know each other at all. And you're a grade lower than me. If you ask me, I don't understand all this division at all.
Micha!
Himitsu said loudly at last. What? She pointedly looked at our latched hands. Yeah. I instantly released her hand and felt blood rush to my face. It's just a habit. A habit that we should ditch too.
You're taking this so seriously.
She giggled. Because it's vital to start off on the right foot.
Understood.
Himitsu said solemnly and pouted. And take this mess off your head already. She carefully removed the crown and put it in her bag. You could just throw it away, I muttered.
Aye, it'll be a reminder that I'm a princess and you're my prince.
Are you starting this again? I pinched her side hard.
Ouch!
Neck! Koski's merry greeting reached us from afar. Alright, here comes. That crown must have long dried out and turned to dust, although I'm sure that Himitsu kept it somewhere in a wardrobe for a long time after. Oh, I'm sure. It can sometimes seem that entire segments of life, hours, days, years, are erased from memory, but if you really try, you can always recall them. I sat on the roof for about an hour, reminiscing. Or perhaps that's merely how it seemed to me, because the hour hand was stubbornly approaching 2 o'clock in the afternoon. My stomach growled and I returned to sinful earth, now with more than just my thoughts. It was too late to go to the canteen. Unfortunately, my funds were quite limited, so I returned to the classroom, quickly packed up my bag, and ignoring Kyosuke, left school. On the way home, I was thinking about Mai and Himitsu's childhood. She probably wasn't a real fairy tale princess to me. It felt more like being Peter Pan and her Wendy. Wendy returned to the real world, and I forever remained in Neverland, where children don't grow up. Lost in thought, I was almost run over by a car. The old empty house welcomed me coldly, as usual, with its silence broken only by the creaks of floorboards, dust dancing in the sunlight that reached the kitchen from the garden, and by a now familiar atmosphere of loneliness. I didn't expect Himitsu to come today, and didn't hope for tasty cooking, but I was starving, having not had lunch or even breakfast. Luckily, there was a lot left after Catherine's visit. The bartender would call the thing I cooked kolya stew or kolyan chowder, as the abundance of soy sauce made the dish pretty watery. Not that I cared, at least it was edible. After washing the dishes, I turned the TV on and pointlessly stared at the screen. All my thoughts were focused on Himitsu. I seemed to have forgotten Catherine completely, and when I did remember her, I felt disgust. Good. I didn't know what she blamed Himitsu for, but Himitsu had the full right to blame her for the situation we found ourselves in. I recalled more and more memories of our childhood, and the events that happened relatively recently. I replayed these memories in my mind fondly, studying each of them for a good while, then going to the next. I guess that was how projectionists rotated the handles of their projectors, carefully, trying not to damage the film. Then the movies would come to an end and give way to harsh reality. In the silence of the house, I could clearly hear a car driving to Himitsu's yard. Ryunosuke-san seemed to have come home early. Actually, it was none of my business. Not anymore. I felt a lump in my throat. Too much connected us for our relationship to be completely broken in a single moment, even if for good reason. And it wasn't only the fact that we grew up together and that Himitsu loved me. Not only the serious matters. The little things that made up our daily life were equally important. Even the fights and grievances, the tears and sorrow, the diseases and hardships. It was important that we had gone through all that together, hand in hand. And I could never imagine that one day Himitsu wouldn't be around. For her, it was love, a self-explanatory feeling. I'd always considered it friendship, but the past weeks had turned it all upside down. I heard voices coming from outside. I couldn't understand anything, but it was clearly Ryunosuke-san talking loudly, as if he were having an argument with someone. Then I heard the shrieking wheels of a leaving car. I couldn't remember Himitsu's mother at all, but I hoped that Himitsu inherited her personality, not her father's. It was weird, but the whole day I had barely thought about Ryunosuke-san's threats. After all, I was the one who screwed everything up. Of course, Catherine had helped, but it was in my power not to allow her to enter my house, or at least kick her out in the evening and not let her stay overnight. Suddenly I felt painfully lonely. There are several kinds of loneliness, and the one I was experiencing was the nastiest. It was a loneliness I'd brought on myself. Of course, I could call Kyosuke, but I was a bit ashamed since I've been ignoring him a lot these days. And I couldn't even think of calling him Michael. What else did I have left? Himitsu? Catherine? No thanks. I've already called her enough to make me want to vomit. I jumped off the chair and started walking around the kitchen in circles. The evening was slowly coming, and I desperately wanted for this day to end. I just physically couldn't stand being alone with my thoughts, so I washed some clothes, vacuumed the entire house, wiped the dust off the wardrobes, went through boxes, cleaned the kitchen, took a shower. I finished almost at midnight and, exhausted, fell straight into bed. I felt a bit dizzy, and my entire body was taken by a pleasant fatigue. How did Himitsu even handle this on a daily basis? She should have become an athlete. I recalled Himitsu's slim body and got noticeably aroused. Good. My brain was pierced by a sudden thought. I wanted her. I wanted her as a woman. Yes. Not only sexually, like I had always wanted Catherine, but entirely and undividedly. I didn't want to give her to anybody or let her go anywhere. Yes. Such a pity that it was too late. Yes. I rolled over and covered my head with a pillow. You don't know what you got until you lose it. Was that the saying? Close enough. Even though I had spent almost my entire life in Japan, I still felt like a Russian with all the pros and cons. I guess I never adapted fully. But then why did I always feel so good with Himitsu? She was much more Japanese than Russian. And at the same time, I was struggling with Catherine and Michael, people with an inherently European mentality. It was most likely about the upbringing, not the place of origin. Applied dialectics at 1 in the morning. That was so typical of me. No, seriously, I would have enrolled in philosophical faculty of the University of Tokyo if they accepted me. And if I had the money. It felt so pathetic that it even made me laugh. After the laugh came the tears. I couldn't even remember the last time I cried. And after that, heavy, as a delirious oblivion. Okay. Okay, I see you. I see you. Now see, at this point in the last route, we had a whole time skip by a month, because I think it was the 24th, if I remember correctly. Everything just suddenly jumped ahead a month. Maybe it was the 26th. It was the 20-something, alright? I was woken up by the officious ring of my alarm clock, but immediately made the difficult decision to keep sleeping and turn it off with a single accurate hit. Irina's recommendations regarding maintaining my normal lifestyle didn't bother me anymore, and it was silly to expect Himitsu to come. Yesterday's distress returned right away, making my head feel as if it were swelling up like the inner tube of an old tire. I woke up again at 11 o'clock, and as luck would have it, I felt rested and refreshed. I was always extremely annoyed by this kind of contrast between mental and physical conditions. You want to hang yourself, but can run a marathon. After forcing myself to take a shower, I walked to the kitchen. It turned out that Catherine and I hadn't bought as much food as I thought. It was more or less just enough for breakfast. Over and over, I kept thinking about how Himitsu wouldn't come anymore. She wouldn't bring food or make a delicious dinner. Then it was time, at 18 years old, to learn how to take care of myself. I didn't know if I had really reconciled myself with the loss of Himitsu, but I needed to move on somehow. No moving on from Himitsu. No. You do not get to be heartbroken about Catherine for a year and a half and then several weeks after she comes back. And then just like, oh, guess I fucked up with Himitsu. No. You ain't moving on, buddy boy. Besides, it'd be great if I could buy some new plates to replace the ones she had broken. You still haven't done that? The sunshine was friendly, but already autumn-appropriate cold, which didn't stop the people on the street from smiling and looking wonderfully happy. Here was a child with his mom, laughing and holding a balloon string in his little fist. If I had 100 of those, I would have hung myself with them and then flown over Tokyo for the sake of the world's entertainment. Jesus. When you feel bad, others always seem to be doing much better than you. Yeah, I feel that. Half an hour later, I reached the office of my bank to withdraw some money. Sometimes I wish to have been born earlier and participated in the student strikes in the 60s to cast off the chains of capitalism in righteous anger together with my comrades. But then, almost every month, I would come here and, with my head lowered, wait for a friendly clerk in a window to give me the money I needed to live. That's how the noble intentions of another young guy were broken against the harsh cliffs of reality. Today, however, it seemed like the entire world was against me. The nameless clerk in his gray suit, with a theatrically concerned expression, informed me that my bank account had been blocked. I argued with him for a good half an hour, raised my voice, even shouted. It was all pointless. I was never given a reason why. He even took the help of the guards to get me out of the bank. I sat down on the bench outside and tried to catch my breath. One thing was clear. There was no coincidence or accident. Coincidences like this simply didn't exist. The KGB, Kobayashi Corporation, Japanese intelligence, Himitsu's father. When it rains, it pours. Or to be more precise, when it seems like things can't get any worse, life will always surprise you. I know what to do now. Didn't even want to think about it. Surprisingly, I had never been troubled by the thought of what I had to do when I ran out of money. Or to be exact, I had only thought about it in an abstract philosophical context. Like, I would go to work. Maybe become a shop assistant or get another job where they don't require a degree. However, I never believed that it would really happen. During this year and a half, my monthly visits to the bank seemed completely natural and unquestionable to me. Even though any normal person in my place would have first asked themselves where the money was coming from. My father's bank account. Maybe. But this explanation only raised new questions. Perhaps I was just afraid to think about it and learn the truth, or break my once established lifestyle. Maybe not the best one, limping with both legs, but without any turmoil or disturbances. And with Himitsu. I was sitting there, dazed, for an hour, but eventually began to come to my senses. It was time to call Ichinose again. He had told me that I shouldn't trouble him for anything insignificant, but my life wasn't insignificant. I couldn't survive in this world of victorious capitalism and Japanese economic miracles without money. I basically sprinted to my house, grabbed the receiver, and dialed the number from memory without shaking hands. The dial tone seemed to continue forever, my heart managing to beat multiple times every second. No reply. I called again and again, but with no success. Alright, I needed to calm down. Maybe they just went out to do some shopping. Yeah, I guess they did. After all, they needed to eat something. I looked at the clock. It was 1 o'clock. Good time to buy some groceries. Groceries, god damn it. But I had nothing to eat myself. I fiercely kicked the nightstand. I wanted to hit my phone, but instantly realized that if I broke it, I would have no money to buy a new one. My situation was getting more and more serious. Why didn't they just kill me? It'd be easier for everyone, including me, I guess. Besides, Maslow was right with his hierarchy. My stomach growled, and I realized if I didn't do something, then the breakfast made of the remains of Catherine's shopping would become my last meal for today. But who could I ask for advice or help? I dialed Ichinose's nephew's number again and again. Nobody responded. I recalled an old film in which a policeman was interrogating a suspect. A tiny, poorly lit room, a little table in the middle of it, and a dim lamp with a wide shade, drowning in clouds of cigarette smoke. The detective with his sleeves rolled leaned up to the table and asked the suspect, "How did you end up here?" The film was probably made in the 1950s. The actor's profile seemed to be carved out of stone. Big noses, wide, strong-willed foreheads, eyebrows pulled together, and plastered swept-back hair. I imagined myself on the other end of the table. "How did you end up here, Nikolai?" Out of all the people I knew, Ryunosuke-san seemed to resemble that detective the most. Just like last night, I was seized by a fit of nervous laughter. Okay, now things definitely couldn't get worse. My brain started to work feverishly. Kagome was the only person who could know more about my situation. I ran out of my house and hurried to school, hoping that I could make it. On my way to school, I was desperately trying to recall how many classes we were supposed to have today. The lack of oxygen was making blood pulsate in my head, and it was hard to focus. Someone might find a catty irony in the fact that my last hope was Kagome. Not Stanley Kubrick's kind irony, but rather Alfred Hitchcock's painful sarcasm.